I'm Susan McGinnis at the Bella Center in Copenhagen, where World Climate Talks are taking place. I'm joined now by Rhone Resch, who is President and CEO of SEIA, the Solar Energy Industry Association. Rhone, good to see you over here.
Thank you for having me.
How are things going so far at the Climate Talks for you guys in the solar industry? Do you have a seat at the table here?
They're going great, to be honest with you. What we've heard from the scientists over and over is that we need to do more and we need to do it sooner. So the solar industry from around the world has gotten here together to say that we can be a technology that in the next 10 years can substantially reduce carbon emissions and can grow jobs at the same time. And we're certainly hearing that reverberated back from the negotiators.
And what are you hoping for when it comes to 190 nations coming up with actual, text or a couple of different agreements for the future of climate change in the world? Do you expect the actual text to hold some special components for solar?
Ultimately, absolutely. We are going to have a price on carbon, and that's going to be critical for driving future demand for all clean energy technologies. What we've seen this week, though, are announcements that continue to support further growth of solar energy. So announcements from Secretary Vilsack, from Secretary Chu, investments in developing countries. So we're expanding markets overseas. We're seeing policies put in place domestically that are going to grow markets to make sure that solar is a big technology that we're going to rely upon in 10 years.
Well, when you talk about policies, in the U.S., the solar industry has had so much help from subsidies, developing and emerging economies. A lot of them are just trying to get their folks electricity. I mean, a lot of people think, is solar really just a resource for the wealthier nations?
Well, it's interesting. And when you step back and look at the last 5 years, the fossil fuel industry has enjoyed subsidies on the equivalent of about $72 billion in the United States, while at the same time period, solar received subsidies less than $1 billion. So what we really need to do is not necessarily over-subsidize any one technology, but just level the playing field and make sure we provide market access so that technologies like solar can compete in the electricity marketplace. So what we're trying to do is make sure that countries start putting policies in place that allow solar to be part of the energy mix as we grow our economies.
So then tell us about solar's role competitively. I mean, you have said that you say the U.S. is poised to be the number one for solar,
Absolutely.
number one market. We have China making huge inroads in that area. Tell us about when do you think the U.S. will surpass China in solar?
Well, it's a global foot race right now. The Chinese are making major investments in new manufacturing as well as creating markets within their own country. We're challenging the federal government right now to provide the same kinds of levels of support. If we want manufacturing in Ohio and in Michigan and in Indiana with clean tech jobs, with green collar jobs, we need to make sure we're providing the same level of support for those manufacturing jobs. So right now we're losing, and we're hopeful that within the next 2 years, the U.S. market for demand at least will be the largest in the world.
I mean, companies there in China like Trina, they say that these are absolutely key talks. This is a key moment for this industry. Do you agree?
Absolutely. That's why we're here. We not only have the trade associations from around the world, but we have companies representing real businesses showing that you can reduce carbon and you can grow the economy at the same time.
Address the financial crisis, which has it's clipped solar for a bit. A lot of projects are canceled in Europe and elsewhere. When do you see that reviving?
Well, financing is absolutely critical for all industries, and we're starting to see money come back into solar project development right now. The U.S. federal government's done a great job with the stimulus bill to provide money to help stimulate new project development, but it's taking a little bit longer than people would want. What we're starting to see now is the private sector, the capital markets start to come back in. We expect 2010 to be a record year for solar really across the world.
Are new technologies bringing down prices of the components of solar right now? This is good news for the industry?
Not only more technologies and improvements in efficiency, but also just scale of manufacturing and more competition. In the last 18 months, we've seen the price of solar be cut in half, going down from an installed cost of $8 a watt down to $4 per watt. We heard Secretary Chu announce earlier this week he expects solar to get down to $1 a watt within the next 2 years. So we're seeing the prices come down, and once we achieve those certain levels, solar will be the lowest cost option.
And when we see a price on carbon, tell us about solar becoming competitive. A lot of this for businesses is all about clarity. They want businesses want to know what the number is, or that there's going to be a price on carbon. What does it need to be, and where do you think that will go?
Well, the business voice that we're hearing very consistently here is that we will have a price on carbon. We know that, we expect that. So the question is, what are the rules of the game, and when does it actually kick in? Investments that are being made in energy infrastructure are investments that last 30, 40, 50 years. There's no doubt there's going to be a strong signal on carbon within the next 5 years. So companies are starting to invest in clean energy technologies, solar, wind, geothermal, recognizing that this is going to be part of the economics going forward. There's no real price signal right now, but what we expect to see within 3 to 5 years is a very clear indication that technologies like solar will provide the lowest cost option for utilities as well as homeowners.
Do you feel from the business end that there is a withholding of, there's sort of a waiting game going on for this clarity, for a carbon price and other targets before investors unleash their funds?
No. And the business community is not waiting around for the delegates to decide what's going to happen in Copenhagen. They're making investments today. So what we're really here to do is to try to advance domestic policies to make sure we have access to the electricity marketplace. We're not looking for unfair treatment for solar or additional benefits above and beyond what others receive. We just want market access because industries right now are investing in clean energy and advancing jobs around the world. So we want to make sure that solar is at that table.
So business is moving forward with or without an agreement on global climate change?
Without a doubt, business is moving forward. We're hopeful that we're going to get an agreement that starts the discussions about really setting some aggressive targets and timetables that will eventually set a price on carbon. But regardless, until we get to that point, investments have to be made in clean energy.
Okay, Rhone Resch from SIA, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'm Susan McGinnis with Clean Skies News in Copenhagen at the Bella Center at World Climate Talks.